If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pat O.
Hello. How was your weekend?
My weekend was uneventful. Let's talk about the Erie, PA convention that you just got back from. How was that?
It was great. So if you don't normally listen to the show, then I guess that's the only way you don't know that I did this thing or follow me anywhere on social media. I went to the High Strangeness Erie event in Erie, Pennsylvania,
And you brought a hat with you?
I did. I brought a hat with me because me and Ann were dressed as the Men in Black, and apparently Pat doesn't know that the Men in Black wear fedoras.
I thought you guys were dressed like Fall Out Boy with your little fucking hats.
I have no idea why. Everybody else got it, just not you.
I think it did. Maybe, I don't know. It didn't translate good on camera. Like, I just saw you and a tie and cleavage and a hat, and I just thought, this isn't a paranormal convention. This is a goddamn arms race. Like, I don't know. That's where my head went, but excuse me.
Again, I don't know why. I mean, we were we did well. I didn't wear my glasses the whole time, especially not when I was on stage. I didn't want to, I want to be able to look at these people.
Sure.
But we were dressed as the Men in Black. And
once I saw the two of you together, it did make more sense because there was two of you, and it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But when I just saw you on stage with the hat on, I was like, oh, it's good for her. But
no.
So how was it? We're not going to sit here and talk about the fucking hat.
Talk about a hat for an hour. No. It was good. I mean, so we got there. It was when we drove into town. As we're driving into town on our 5-hour drive from Dayton, Ohio to Erie, we hit a fucking snowstorm. And, because we're traveling up to damn near Canada, I mean, it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. So we almost died on the way there, but we didn't. So that was good. And then, of course, we were worried about, is this going to affect attendance at the event? And it was still a pretty happening event. I feel like probably a lot more people could have been there if it wasn't bad weather. I feel like a lot more people were going to be there, but that's fine. Like I said, it wasn't like it was dead or anything, because it wasn't. It was a great time. So, it started off, we got a little bit of a later start, but that was okay. So basically how it was set up was that every hour I would sit down with somebody on a stage, and they would relay to me whatever encounters with high strangeness or just weird things in life or whatever it was that they wanted to talk about. So Matt went for, well, first it was me. I introduced who I was. I shared my Mothman encounter, and went to go interview Mothboy Matt from Mothboys podcast. And, he shared 3 different stories with us, all very interesting. And then I talked to, these fucking saints of people. I mean, just wonderful people, known as Jamie and Jenny King. Now, when I met them, so I'd gotten done interviewing Matt, and then I went outside to go smoke a cigarette. And while I was out there, these people pull up in a truck and approach me. And, it's Jamie and Jenny. And they're like, hey, are you Ashers? I was like, yeah. They're like, hey, we're, so-and-so. Hugged me immediately. Now, I really didn't know much about everybody. I mean, the only person I knew was Matt. So I didn't know what they were going to talk about or what kinds of things they were going to tell me about. And, but we kind of had a brief conversation. They had great energy just from the get-go, and, very welcoming. And then when I had them on stage and they were telling their story, it was about some Bigfoot encounter that they had, actually Bigfoot vocalizations that they had and recorded. And, it was, it was probably a lot more emotional for me than it was for anybody else, because what was fucking strange was that they were telling my exact experience with how it all went down with being the Mothman, except for them it's Bigfoot. They ended up having this Bigfoot vocalization that they encountered, and then they started investigating this particular area. They're finding out all these other areas of high strangeness. They're really heavy into synchronicity, and the universe and kind of how it works. And I mean, just we're fucking the same people. It's crazy. It blew my mind. So, but it was great. That part went well. Then we just kind of had a short spell where I would be on stage and people could come and share their stories, from the audience and talk about their encounters, just kind of unplanned. And we just kind of we had like a roundtable discussion of multiple things then. Then I talked to Anton and Velda from the Trundle Manor. And let me tell you, these guys, so okay. Trundle Manor is like a historic home that this guy Anton had bought and decided to fill it with all of his, oddities and curiosities because he's always been into that. And they kind of just talked about it. Now, I really, really did not know what to expect. I assumed that maybe because they had, a bunch of weird artifacts that maybe they had some paranormal stories, but no, not really. They show up to this event and they have like this whole walkthrough situation. They weren't selling anything. And it was just filled with all of the stuff that they had and, had brought with them. I mean, cool stuff. They had like an actual fucking space helmet and they like had it on like a mannequin or whatever. And I mean, it was, I can't even describe to you all the shit. They had amazing stuff, but they were also dressed kind of like the Men in Black. And I was like, oh. And so before I'd even talked to those people, some of their people kept like coming over because they had like, I think there was 6 or 7 of them. They had a big group, and they're all dressed up. And so they're walking around. They got the earpieces. One guy has like a prop alien he's walking around with, and this girl, she comes up to me. She's dressed up. She talks to me for about a good 10 minutes. And then she walks away. Real cute. I don't know who she is. I still don't know who the hell she is. Real cute. And then she walks away. Well, one of our fans was there, and I was sitting and talking to him. And while I was talking to him, she comes up and hands me this pamphlet. She goes, "You dropped this." And I'm like, "Well, no, I didn't." And I look at her, she winks at me. And I'm like, "Okay." And I take it. And it's a pamphlet that says, "Join us." And I was like, "Okay, what is this?" And I open it up and it's just plain black text on white background, "Come seek us out," or something like that. And I'm like, huh.
And what was it? What was the group?
Well, I'll get there. So anyway, so the Trundle Manor people come up on stage and they start kind of talking about how they met as a couple and just kind of how they started all this. They had specifically brought something for me to check out, which is awesome. And it was an original copy of one of Charles Fort's books with like a bunch of newspaper clippings and, old as hell's great. They showed me that. While they're on stage, they had handed out 2 things for the audience. They told everybody, "You're all going to get missions. You can join our organization, but you have to do the mission first. So we're going to give you these envelopes. Your agency is going to come from whatever it is your mission is. So you could be the agent of whatever, depending on what mission you were assigned." They said, "Fill these out. Come talk to us. We'll give you your badge or whatever." And it's like, okay, but I didn't get one. So I'm like, okay. And then they brought their own, they like made their own alcoholic beverage. It was like shots they were handing out to people, and they were calling it alien slime, and it was like green and whatever. But the wife like described it as a little cummy. She said the texture was a little cummy. So we had actually spent like 20 minutes of me talking to them, talking about alien cum and consistency in the process to get it and this, that, and the other. So and they also, when they opened when we did their interview and were ready to go, they had brought their whole group in with them, and they did this like bit in the start of it where like their guys that didn't say shit walked around with like all this equipment and laser guns and scanners and shit, like scanned the room, and they found an alien hiding behind one of the chairs, and they got it out of there. So that was great. And then they stood around like on guard for everybody. It was neat. It was really cool. Anyway, so later on, I'm like, okay, so obviously my pamphlet or whatever, I'm bypassing the mission. Maybe that's what it is. And they're going to give me my badge and things. So I go to turn it into the guy and talk to him. And he like looked at me, and I was like, I was given this, and I had seen other people when they had opened their envelopes in the audience pull out that same pamphlet. And I'm like, huh. I was like, so I was just given this. So I don't know what this means. He's like, oh, well, that's because you have a very particular mission. And I was like, okay. And he pulls out my stuff. He goes, yeah. He was like, you're going to be the agent of wonder. And your job is to go out and spread wonder to all the people. And I just thought that was, it's like I was knighted, but by weird people. And it was beautiful. And so it was great. But no, so I mean the event itself went wonderful. I talked to so many people with so many stories. It always goes by so fast. And then of course, went and hung out with everybody afterwards. And then Saturday, me and Ann go venturing around, and we went to Presque Isle, into Beach 6 on Presque Isle, which is where the Bigfoot UFO sighting happened. I'm sure people have heard me talk about it before. That was recorded in Project Blue Book, investigated by Project Blue Book.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine, and maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them, from disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
And then we also went to this cemetery that has the quote unquote vampire's crypt. It's a local legend. It's a mausoleum with a V on it. Nobody really knows who's buried there, but they assume it's a vampire. Then we went home. So
nice.
That was my weekend. So it was good. Like I said, I mean, it was great meeting the Kings. They were amazing. I fucking cannot wait to talk to them more, because it, like I said, blew my mind that they had the same experience that I did. And they're like,
how was it emceeing? Was it daunting? Did you kind of slip into podcaster mode and instincts took over? Was it different being in front of a crowd? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
Well, I do more. I mean, I do a lot more eyewitness interviews than I do podcasting. You know what I mean? Like, so that's something that I do way more of, especially interview style. We don't really do interviews on the show, so we don't do a bunch of that. So I didn't, that part was easy. I like being on stage. I didn't mind it. I wasn't nervous, not like it was at the Marietta event where I had the presentation. Because I had someone to bounce off of the entire time. It wasn't just me. And so I really enjoyed that. But it wasn't very stressful. I felt bad because I wasn't at the table a lot. And, people kept wanting to come up and talk to me, and I wasn't there. One gentleman that was there, his name's Fred Lane. He's the state director for Pennsylvania for MUFON. And, he kept wanting to talk to me. And then like every time he'd catch me, I'd have to go, so I was like, I'm sorry, and so that part kind of sucks, but I'd do it again. I've actually already been invited to another event in Ohio in June to do pretty much not the same exact thing, but to MC an event. So I'm gonna do it. So
awesome.
There's that. So yeah, I'll talk more about that when it's time to come out. But yeah, I like it.
Good.
I like it better than this. I like doing it in person rather than online.
Yeah.
Because I like the human interaction. I like meeting all the people. That's my favorite part, is the people. So I only really have two interesting things. I have one anecdote that's been passed. Now, this is kind of one of those things. It's like, stories that you hear on social media or whatever. Somebody be like, oh, I was, I was driving down the road, and some lady asked me for a ride, and I gave her a ride, and then she fucking turned into a snake. Except for that, actually, that's what we're going to talk about. This guy picked up a lady in Ghana and says that he gave her a ride, and in the middle of their car ride, she turned into a snake. And so he left his car where it was, and this has made headlines, which is not something that usually happens. So, but that's it. I mean, that's the story. That's where it starts and stops. There's nothing else to it. I don't know what to think about it. Who knows? So he could be crazy, or this could have happened. I don't know, Pat. What do you think?
The woman turned into a snake, huh?
Yep.
Like a small snake, or like a giant human size snake?
She specifically turned into a cobra.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't even know if I would have to know a decent amount about snakes to be able to identify the kind of snake that the woman turned into. So the fact that this guy could identify it clearly as a cobra makes me think he might have had snakes on the brain. You know what I mean?
Well, he lives in Ghana, so I mean,
Oh
and
yeah, that's right.
there's
It's part of
that.
it's part of the wildlife over there.
Right. I mean, there's that. So, you got to watch out for cobra when you're out and about in the wild because they live in the wild. But yeah, I don't know. It's a weird one. I mean, I would definitely chalk that up to high strangeness.
Yeah, Finelander shit. I'm glad didn't happen to me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is the guy just telling stories? And I think it had started because he had posted about it on social media and just randomly had said, "Oh my gosh, this lady just turned into a snake," and that's it. I mean, there's nothing else to the story. We can't prove that it happened. We can't disprove it.
Sure. I mean,
And
I would start by talking to the guy and trying to figure out like what he had done. Had he angered some spirits? Does he have a rival that hexed him or some shit? I don't know. Like, it seems like, was he just an innocent bystander in the wrong place at the wrong time, picking up the wrong woman off the side of the road, or was he targeted or
she's
who
a
knows
fucking
what?
snake lady. I'm no idea,
Right.
but and I probably won't talk to him because I don't speak whatever it is they speak in Ghana. So,
Sure.
but it's just interesting. But stuff like that happens a lot. I guess that's why I wanted to include it in the news. Is that these kinds of stories happen all the fucking time? It's like Vegetable Man. Just it happens, and that's it. And there's
Right.
nothing else, and you'll never find out if it happened or not. We'll never get to the bottom of it. It just happened. So, was this lady a shapeshifter or some type of? Well, really, I guess the closest thing we have in America is a skinwalker. She could have been.
I wanted to say that. I wanted to bring that up, but I didn't want
Yeah.
to seem ignorant in case I was too
No.
far off. But I'm glad that my instincts were correct. Yeah, because that is what it sounds like, right? It sounds
Yeah.
like she was some kind of shapeshifter.
Yeah, like a shapeshifter, and I don't know how long it was until he got back in his car. I don't know if she just slithered out of the car and left, or I don't,
Right.
but that's all. That's all we got. So it could have been, but it's like, but again, did that really happen? I don't know. If a tree falls in the woods, it's just one of those we can't prove. There wasn't a scientist driving the car. It wasn't anybody credible. Just some guy in Ghana. So good luck to you,
Sure.
guy. I hope you don't run into any other snake ladies.
Yeah. Quit picking up strangers off the side of the road. Your parents
Right.
teach you better.
Don't do that. And well, maybe unless you want that to happen, then okay, you should continue to do that.
All right.
And then also in this news is a lady named Alicia Martinez from Colorado. She's under investigation by the Catholic Church because she has a statue of Saint Michael that started bleeding on the same day that Russia attacked the Ukraine.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. And Saint Michael has huge Ukrainian ties, which makes it even more interesting. But yeah, she's got this statue of Saint Michael standing on top of the devil or a demon or something. And this isn't like an old metal, copper oxidized. No, this is like a very colorful, seems ceramic type of statue. And it started bleeding not from the eyes but from the head. And so she went and she consulted a bunch of people. She consulted a priest, and the priest said, well, this isn't a bad thing. This is a good omen, whatever the omen is. And then she consulted a nun who told her that, oh, it's okay. It's going to stop bleeding when the blood drips down and drips onto the devil's face. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. The blood dripped onto the devil's face. It stopped bleeding. It bled for a week. Now the Catholic Church is investigating the matter. They've got the statue. They're going to do scans. And reading about this, and I have a video. It's posted in the description. Go watch it. It is, I think, all in Spanish. So there's that, but you can see video of it bleeding and then the aftermath of it. But anyway, so, the Catholic Church, apparently they investigate these claims a lot. And, they've never really found any substantiated claims to bleeding statues. Apparently, it's almost always been a hoax. So they are not hopeful that this is going to be something.
Being raised Catholic, first of all, the best primer to if you want to develop a relationship with the occult, the best primer you could have is being raised Catholic, because Catholics are easily the witchiest of all the Christian sub cultures or subcults, or however you want to fucking say it. Yeah, we're big on the crying statues and the fucking and stigmata and stuff like that, and potato chips that look like Jesus and fucking flying Cheetos or whatever. Um, yeah, that sounds like right up our alley. And it's interesting that the Catholic Church itself would denounce it in such a
Yeah.
vehemently, but two of their disciples, a nun and a priest, acknowledge it openly and accept it as real. You know what I mean?
Right.
That to me is not surprising at all. So I mean, because the Vatican doesn't even believe that the priests are fucking kids, and we all know that's going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's
Like
true.
they're kind
Yeah.
of they kind of fly in the face of common sense sometimes, as big organizations tend to do. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It's been a while since we had a good bleeding statue story from the Catholic Church, and the war in the Ukraine is just good as any. Have we ever? We should do an episode on all the Fatima stuff. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Nope.
the secrets. Do you know what those? No.
No.
Oh my gosh, that used to terrify me as a kid. So supposedly these like three girls are like walking to school, and like all this and like the sun came down from the sky and was talking to them, and it was the Virgin Mary, and they told these kids three secrets, and the kids revealed the first two, but the third one is about like the end of the world or something. It's real nutty stuff, but it's like considered to be like gospel. It's like modern day miracle shit. It happened like in the 20th century. We should do a show on that sometime. I think it would be really good. It'd be very interesting to read. But yeah, there's some real goofy, Catholic witchy stuff, and this sounds like right up that alley. So I buy it. Why not?
Okay. Well, sure.
Plus, like, you ever go into like Mexican grocery stores and see all those cool candles that they have?
No.
There's the Latins take Catholicism to a completely different stratosphere than the Irish do. So I mean, I was raised Irish Catholic, which is pretty much as Catholic as you can get. But Hispanic people tend to take it to a completely different level, and crying statues is kind of in their wheelhouse. So
yeah, and then that's what she is. She's she's from Mexico originally, but she's in Colorado.
Right.
So, like I said, the whole video is in Spanish. So that makes sense. But we'll see. Well, it's not a cry. It doesn't cry. It bleeds from the forehead, which is different. I don't know.
Oh, that's right. That's odd.
Yeah.
But maybe there's some symbolism there. I don't know.
Yeah. It actually, the blood, it's dripping. It's going like around the eyes. It's not even like grooving. Just like the tract, it's flowing downwards. It's going. It hasn't touched the eyeballs at all. So I don't know. We'll see what it was. I mean, they'll run their test or whatever, and we'll figure it out. But I was surprised to find out the Catholic Church is doing their homework on it.
Oh yeah.
Them,
No, they believe in all that shit. I mean, that's why they still do the masses in Latin, and like, now that I grew up Catholic, and recently I've started practicing more as, I guess you'd say, a Lutheran. And Lutherans like wear shorts to church and Hawaiian shirts and shit, and it's very laid back. The Protestants, like, they kind of reject most of the symbolism, and I'd say it's like no frills Christianity, right? It's like basic, like this is what Jesus wanted. So Martin Luther nailed the 99 theses to the fucking wall, like, door and shit. And like, Catholicism is still deeply rooted in like very strict tradition, and like I said, that's how I was raised. That's my default OS, as it were. It's kind of like how I was brought into all this shit, and it's not a bad one to have, because if you can handle, it's kind of like starting off smoking Lucky Strikes. You can handle that, then you can switch to Marlboro Lights and be perfectly fine. And Catholicism is the Lucky Strike of all Christian religions. Like, you got to dress up real nice. It's a lot of kneeling. It's a lot of fucking shit in Latin. It's a lot of long ceremonies. And I was an altar boy, and that was a pain in the ass, not ironically. And it's just kind of you get used to it, And then when you move into other religions that are way more laid back, you're like, I could do this shit standing on my head. But yeah, Catholicism's got a lot of goofy shit going on, and it's way more akin to like occult rituals than some of the more laid back Christian services. you know. So yeah, like holy candles that give you special powers and bleeding statues and shit. Oh, that's right up the Catholic's alley, you know. And I'm interested to see where that story goes.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of news that I want to bring up this week. Two stories that you know, and this first one definitely falls under keep an eye on it and see where it goes. I don't know how big this story got outside of Chicago, but are you familiar with Jussie Smollett, the Empire actor?
Everybody knows about.
Okay, I don't know. It was
nationwide.
Okay, it was a huge story. Obviously, it got a little bit more press here than I think it did in other places. But yeah, it was part of Chappelle's stand up a couple specials ago, so I assume that it's pretty well known.
Yeah,
but yeah, so he was the guy. He was the actor on Empire that that supposedly was assaulted by MAGA hat wearing racists on the streets of Chicago,
right,
at like 2 a.m. on a Tuesday in the middle of a fucking polar vortex when it was like negative fucking 30 outside, and supposedly these guys poured bleach on him and hung him in a noose or whatever, and all this shit. It sounded fishy from the start. Police ended up pressing charges against Jussie, saying that it didn't happen. A court found him guilty of faking the crime, and he was sentenced this week. He was sentenced to 150 days in jail, which is roughly 5 months. I think it was originally 4 months, but after he acted a fool in the courtroom, they tacked on another 30 days. But something very interesting that he said after he was found guilty is, Your Honor, I respect you and I respect the jury, but I did not do this, and I am not suicidal. If anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself, and you all must know that. So I thought this was really interesting because as far as conspiracies go, which is something that we talk about a lot on the show, this whole thing happened because he insinuated that there was a conspiracy against him. He had sent himself fake mail too before the attack happened, trying to get the producers of the show to feel that he was some kind of target or something. And then after that was kind of disproven, then he staged this fake attack. And then after that was proven to be false. Now he's going into jail and he's prophesizing someone suiciding him like Epstein or something. And to me, it's just so interesting because it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, either it'll happen or it won't. And I hate to be that flippant about his life personally, but as a bystander, it's going to go one of two ways, right? Like either this guy's going to get killed in jail, or he won't, and he'll come out and be like, well, I guess I made all that noise for nothing. I did, you know. But what he's suggesting now is that he's going to be suicided in prison, which is kind of like, I don't know why anyone would do that. Like, it's not like he's that much of a threat. But it's just interesting to see. I don't know if this guy's really paranoid, or if he's really a target, or if he's just trying to use the paranoia and like the kind of conspiracy as far as like people getting killed in jail, if he's trying to use that, if he's trying to weaponize that, you know what I mean?
You mean like how he weaponized
like
crimes,
like the racism shit, yeah.
You know, and for clout, I guess. I don't know. I don't follow the case like that. I don't follow celebrity news like that really. So that with this, you know, it's kind of one of those things that walks the line of like celebrity news and like actual social issues, you know, which is a social issue. Hate crimes do happen still.
You know, 100%. Yeah.
We were staying in a mountain town in West Virginia for actually the Braxy Bazaar, and we passed a house that had a noose hanging in the front yard freely. So I mean, you know, and it was definitely one of those towns. You know, it wasn't like they just had it up for decoration. I mean, they were definitely probably a sundown town still exists. You know, so hate crimes do still happen. So it's not like his story was a far stretch from the imagination, because that shit does happen. But there was more to it, and you know, again, I don't know the details. I didn't care to learn about them after, you know, it'd come out that he was lying. Now he's been convicted, that, you know, it's been on paper saying that he lied about it all. And yeah, I don't know why he would feel the need to shout out that he is not going to commit suicide, because usually only the people that commit suicide in jail, you know, they got big secrets. Well, what's his big secret? What did he accomplish with this? I mean, To me, that sounds like he probably is going to kill himself just so he can be in the spotlight and be like, oh, guess what? He said he wouldn't do that. Because that is a guy that fucking fakes a hate crime would do some shit like that.
Well, I think, the fake the hate crime thing, I think he thought that it was going to make him a more sympathetic character so that for his like contract with Empire, it was like first of all, it was completely batshit. Don't get me wrong, but he thought that he was being very strategic and how he was leveraging public opinion towards him, and he thought by making himself to be this like, and he was also a gay man, so the fact that he was he thought that he was trying to like generate interest or sympathy, and that would give him a bigger part on the show. It would let him negotiate for more money. That is kind of the thought, and that all fucking blew up in his face because he didn't do it. I mean, he didn't do a good job doing it. It was very ridiculous, the shit that he did. And the fact now that he's trying to spin it into the fact that there's some kind of conspiracy against him and that he's going to be suicided while in jail. One thing that is for certain is that this guy's going to be he's only going to be in there for 5 months. He's going to be in protective custody the whole fucking time, right? He's a celebrity. He's a high profile prisoner. They're not going to put him in general population. They're not just going to throw him in Cook County jail with a fucking cellmate or something like that, right? He's going to be under watch the whole time, not only because of for fear of retribution from the prisoners, but from the guards as well. Because remember, he was trying to make Chicago look bad. He was trying to make the Chicago police look bad by saying that they were, and then because once it started to come out, like some of the details of this crime against him, and there was some suspicion. So then it's like he kind of tried to flip it back on the cops and saying, well, you're trying to make me look like I made this up and you're being dismissive towards my case. And it was like, no, you made this fucking up. Like, it's nuts. You know what I mean? And then once there was the big trial and everything, it's one of those things where the police were actually exonerated and this guy was the one that had done something wrong. So the fact that like, he's not going to be on even the prison, he's going to be on the prison guard shit list too. So, but the jail administration, the like higher ups, everyone's going to make sure this guy survives these 5 months. Right. He's going to be in protective custody the entire fucking time. And what's interesting now is that just today on Instagram, his brother said that like, basically they have him in a psych ward because he's locked down under such protective custody. And it's like, well, they're doing that for like, it's a no-win situation. What the fuck is he supposed to do? Is he supposed to be like let in general pop, like where he can get fucking killed in a heartbeat or something? Like,
yes and no. I think a lot of people don't really understand how prison systems work. Like you don't go to jail for something like this. You don't go to jail for 5 months and go to a maximum security prison.
No, he's not penitentiary, but he's in county. I mean, that's fucking.
He is, and he was sentenced. So was he sentenced to prison or was he sent in county? That's a difference.
I think he's. Well, let me put it like this. I know that he's in the Illinois State Correctional System. I don't know if he's in Cook County Prison or if he's at like Joliet. Like, but you're right. He's not in some maximum security penitentiary. He's doing 5 months.
So he's not in there. So anybody that's in there is in there for like because they got caught with a pound of cocaine. You know what I mean? They're not trying to fucking stab some random guy and then spend the rest of their life in prison. Like they want to get out too. So right. he might not be in protective custody because there's no. I mean, he's not in there with killers. And again, that also depends on where is he, because jail and prison are two totally different places, right. And have different jail. Has fucking, I mean, you don't do shit but sit in your cell anyway. They don't get like, I mean, they get a little bit of recreational time, but not like in prison. Prison, you get a lot more. You get maybe like an hour a day, and also, when you get to eat with everybody that you're outside of your cell. So he does. I mean, it's not really. They're not going to protect him from anything and people that are in jail, I mean, they'll get out unless they're being, they just got arrested that night for murdering somebody. Anyway, so that's going to be. I mean, that's going to be a thing too. And you're right, he is a celebrity, so guess what, they're going to try to protect him a little bit more, because they don't want that to reflect badly on them and their prison, right. Because prisons are funded by the state, and if you have an outrage at a prison that happens, then you lose your state funding. So the warden's not going to let anything happen to him personally. There's very much a social order within prisons, and they're not going to let shit happen to the guy. Again, he tried to make the police look bad, but that didn't work. So because that didn't work, it's not like the police are going to conspire to kill him. You know what I mean?
He's going to be in county for 150 days.
Oh, okay.
Cook
Well,
County
so
Jail.
he's pretty much going to be by himself anyway the whole time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, interesting. I just think it'll be, I don't know if he's necessarily going to be the next Epstein or anything, but
it will be interesting. I agree with that. Like I said, whether it happens or not.
Yeah, file under wait and see. I mean, we talked about it here. We'll see.
Right.
He made pretty dire predictions for himself, and the clock's ticking. He's been there for 3 days, so we'll see what happens. And either he'll survive it or he won't. Not to be that flippant about the man's life. I hope he survives. I don't want to see anyone in jail.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's interesting that he took that tone, and it's like, I wonder what he thinks is happening, or what he knows that we don't, because definitely from what we're seeing on the outside, there's no reason for him to be suicided in jail.
Right.
But he either thinks that the facts of the case are different, or this is just another hook to get people interested. And he had this he knew, he's like, well, if I get found guilty, this is what I'm going to scream out on my way out of the courtroom. You know what I mean? Because this will get me in the press for a couple more days and shit.
And it worked. I mean,
yeah. When they were live tweeting that, and I was like, holy shit! Like, of all the things I expected him to fucking yell out, that was not it. That was interesting. So good for you, dude. You caught my interest.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that, and the other thing I wanted to talk about real quick is that, of course, in true on Wednesdays we talk weird fashion, I am thoroughly researching a topic after we did the show on it. And I just wanted to give our listeners a little update about the Havana Syndrome episode that we did a couple weeks ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I did end up ordering that book, Havana Syndrome, Mass Psychogenic Illness, and the Real Story Behind the Embassy, Mystery and Hysteria. And we talked about this book when we did the episode, but I ordered the book, and I was reading a book about werewolves as I tend to do. And once I finished that, I started on this one. And I got to say, it's a very interesting read. It's definitely made me question the Havana Syndrome thing way more, but it's also a very good, I'd say, like, philosophical text, because it makes you really consider mass hysteria, how frequent it actually happens, and how much stuff can be attributed to it. Mass hysteria is something that I always thought was kind of a punchline, right? Like, it's not something that I ever really believed existed with any great frequency within our culture. But, this book makes a lot of very compelling arguments if that's exactly what Havana Syndrome is. All those embassy workers prior to going to Havana, Cuba was shut down for decades, and the Obama administration opened it up to a lot of people's chagrin in 2015. And when those embassy workers were sent there, they were given stern lectures by the CIA and the FBI saying, listen, you guys are going to a place where you're not welcome. You're going to be monitored. You're going to be surveyed. You're going to be under constant watch by the Cubans. Everything you say and do is going to be recorded. Like, this is what they were told before they went. So they went into a situation expecting the worst, very paranoid, very high stress environment. One of the people that went there, their dog died. And they thought the Cubans had poisoned the dog, and it's like, well, maybe, but when you have like 100 people, if you look at 100 people over the course of a year, how many of them might have a pet die? You know, and that's kind of like what this comes down to, is that, like, a lot of this stuff, if you were to look at it scientifically, just statistically, you would have this number of people exhibit these nondescript symptoms over this long of a timeline. And they get into a little bit of the science. I haven't finished the book yet. I'm about a third of the way through, but they get into the science and how sonar weaponry and ultrasound weaponry would actually work. Now, actually, you've had an ultrasound before.
Yeah.
I've had several in the past couple months. How do ultrasounds work?
The waves come through to the actual product itself and bounce back to create an image.
Right. So they use jelly from the device to the skin because it needs to have exact contact.
Yeah.
You cannot fire ultrasound waves through a wall. You cannot fire them any kind of distance. There is no distance. It needs to be device on skin. That's how weak these waves are. That's how weak the conductivity is, right? So the idea that some kind of these people were attacked using ultrasound weapons like doesn't make any fucking sense. I haven't gotten to the part where they disprove the microwave technology though. But as far as like the sonic attacks go, there's no way. And once again, I know when we kind of talked about this, it was like, well, you got people that say that it's this book was written by people, the type of people you would expect to disprove this theory, right? We tend to believe what we want to believe, and the fact that you have some doctors disproving all this stuff, we just kind of dismiss that as well. Of course, they're going to say that. You know what I mean? Who's on whose payroll? But you realize that there is actually more of there's more of a reason to think that we wanted to believe that these attacks were real because of the people that pushed the story in the press, which is very verifiable, which you can totally fact check. People like Marco Rubio, people in politics and down south that did not like the fact that Obama opened up the embassy with Cuba. They did not like Cuba. They liked the fact that this was a buffer zone between us and the Russians. They thought that opening this embassy would invite Russian interference in American life, right? Because that's what Cuba was seen as in the 60s. And they just hated Obama in general. So the fact that Obama opening up Cuba to Americans again, for a lot of people was seen as like this monumental thing. You had these people in politics that saw it as wanted to try to squash that as soon as possible. So fabricating these imaginary attacks from Cubans against American citizens that were working there kind of fit their political agenda more. And I think that's really interesting to consider as well. So I'll keep reading the book and I'll give you guys updates, but Havana Syndrome, probably a load of shit.
Yeah, I obviously I agree after looking into it. We did talk about that incident back in the 70s that happened with the microwave attacks on whatever it was from. I don't think it was even from Russia, but it was on something in America. But they didn't do it to do it to people, penetrate people. They did it to interfere with technology, which also didn't work. So.
Right. And there's like sonic weapons. Like they use these sound cannons for like crowd dispersal. Like the LAPD uses them. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
there are sonic weapons, but not what they're talking about. Not when you're talking about like some embassy worker is staying in room 307 of a hotel and somehow they're going to aim this sonic fucking cannon and go through the whole entire hotel and hit this one person in this one hotel room. Like it don't work like that. If you have a crowd of people, the LAPD can wheel out this fucking giant sound cannon and pop all their ears from fucking a football field away. But that's different. You know what I mean? Like that's not what they're saying this is. They're saying that, they're giving people like pinpoint concussions through like walls and shit. And like, it's not like, oh, we don't have the technology or the technology doesn't exist, like stealth technology or something. It's like, no, it's like science doesn't fucking work like that. Like, it's not like we haven't invented something yet that can do that yet. It's like, no, you'll never be able to do that.
Right.
So it's very interesting. And I probably should have read this book before we did the episode, but fuck it. We're figuring out as we go. And honestly, we're coming to the same conclusion that we came before. It's just now it's a more well-informed opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. We were talking about, we talked a lot actually. Yeah. You know what? That's one thing I didn't fucking say, about this event. Fucking huge shout out to Eerie Eric and especially Creepy Carrie for putting this event on to begin with. Because man, she worked her ass off and she did a great job organizing this. And apparently they do this a lot. I didn't know Eric and Carrie that well until this past weekend, but they put on a lot of local events and they're damn good at it. But anyway, so they had me and Ann, we stayed at their house. And, again, this was like the first time I'd ever really hung out with them much. I met them back at Cryptid Bash and we hit it off, but I haven't seen them ever since. And, we were talking about, I mean, fuck, what didn't we talk about? But we had, kind of talked about how people's, your mind can definitely play tricks on you and how you can kind of decipher between like what is and what isn't. Um, Carrie has a very interesting story, a weird encounter that she shared, and I'm not going to go into detail about it because I don't want to push her consent. But I know people know the basics. She shared it on a show once, and she saw the Hat Man or whatever. Well, this predated the Hat Man. You know what I mean? So the Hat Man, if people don't know, it's just this dark, shadowy figure that wears a top hat that is just supposed to be extremely demonic, horrifying. And let me disclose this again. I've publicly said it and I'll say it again. I don't believe in ghosts and I don't believe in demons. But anytime anybody ever shares a Hat Man story with me, I fucking won't touch it. I'm scared of it. I don't know what it is, but I'm afraid of it, and it gives me just very bad vibes. And we were kind of talking about it a little bit, and but people, it's kind of become more of a popular thing that people talk about on the internet. But again, this was before the thing had a name. It was before it became popular, and people were reporting seeing this thing. So those sightings are probably legit. And then she was talking about how other people now on the internet say that like it was wearing like a bowler hat, and that's not the same thing, and it's not the same thing. But anyway, based off of just a tiny bit of information that you might have and an experience, is it that people see this Hat Man thing with a bowler hat on, so therefore that's what they report? Are they lying? Well, they could be. Or did they actually see something and they just kind of, with the little bit of information they have, they jump on the, oh well, it's the Hat Man crowd. So when you apply that to something like mass hysteria and Havana syndrome, it's not necessarily that there wasn't anything to it, because did these agents actually experience some type of physical symptoms from it? Sure, I'm sure they did. But is it because they are all suffering from a particular targeted illness? Probably not. No. It's probably just because it was built up in their minds to have seen, or not seen, to have experienced what it was that they experienced, and maybe even contributed to it because they were stressing out about it. And stress causes your body to do all kinds of fucked up shit. So, I mean, I don't know. There's also that. But we did talk about that one guy who was studying the pilots that encountered, and he compared their brain activity and things to Havana syndrome. So I would like to look into that a little bit more and see, what does that mean now? And now that we know Havana, does that discredit what that doctor's saying about these contactees? Probably not. No, I don't know. What do you think, Pat?
Listen, the Havana thing, I'm going to keep digging into it because it's something that fascinates me, and I don't think this book is the end all be all, because you're absolutely right. There's the UFO experiencers that are sharing similar brain patterns as the Havana syndrome people, and what they're writing off as mass hysteria. But I think that's how I kind of started this whole thing, was the prevalence of mass hysteria. And I mean, hey, look, research the Orson Welles War of the Worlds thing, which is something that I think we're all kind of familiar with, but really research all of the things that people said. There was people like standing on rooftops saying that they could see the smoke from the Russian or from the Martian tripods coming over the river towards them. You know what I mean? Or, oh my God, I could see New Jersey on fire from here, and all this stuff. And New Jersey wasn't on fire. And there
Yeah.
was no Martian tripods. There was no green smoke. People killed themselves and went insane and fucking jump off roofs and all this crazy shit. And and none of it was real. None of it was real. And they even said repeatedly throughout the broadcast, this is a dramatization. This is not real. And people ignored it and people believed it. And yes, those people are the outliers, but that's what the kind of point is that, stuff like this happens. People get carried away. And when you're putting a bunch of diplomats right before they get on a plane to go to a country that hasn't welcomed American citizens in 60 years, and you tell them, that you're going to be, under covert surveillance and attack the whole time, like, of course you're going to have 30% of them turn around and have, report a mystery illness or something like that.
Right.
it kind of makes sense. So
right. And like, having one book out there about it doesn't mean that that's the end all be all. They're still going to be researching it. People are still reporting Havana syndrome now, or what they believe is Havana syndrome. It'll be a minute before we really get to the bottom of this. But no, I think that's a good update. I think people should read the book, and dig into all the information that's out there. Again, that's the point. You guys need to utilize your tools there, and
yeah, read not necessarily this book, but just read books in general.
Just read
you know
books.
what I mean?
Read all the books, right? I mean, that's all of them. I mean, whatever it is you like to read, just fucking read. God damn it.
Right.
That's all we ask you to do. But you're right. You're right. Okay, so yes, this is a long intro, and I'll probably cut some of it out. We'll see.
You cut out the Jussie Smollett thing. Oh, it wasn't nice.
Just take it all.
I give you my permission. It's fine.
I'm just gonna have Jussie Smollett, and then that's it. Just the name. People are like, what was that about? Anyway. Okay, so yes, you guys are here because I know why you're here. You're here because you want to listen to me talk to Taunia Derenberger. You know who that is. If you listen to the show, you know who that is. But if you don't know who that is, Taunia is the daughter of Woodrow Derenberger, who had the lifelong friendship with alien Indrid Cold. And of course, you've heard me talk about this a lot because guess what? I did over 8 hours of content with the guys over at the Infinite Rabbit Hole about this topic specifically. So this interview that I did with Taunia was actually after that. So I do ask her a couple of questions that we had talked about on that show. And then some. We didn't really deep dive too much into Taunia, I guess, because I don't know why. I mean, what do you guys want to know about this Indrid situation? The thing that I always find fascinating about it is that when Taunia talks about him, she doesn't talk about him like he's an alien. She talks about him like she's talking about her uncle from well, I'm sorry, she talks about him like she's talking about her uncle from Florida. You know what I mean? Like that's that's how she talks about it. And I think that that's very interesting. So I thought it would be really cool for you guys to hear that. I know she hasn't done a lot of interviews, but of course she's going to do her first big one here. She's done others before, but this is the biggest, of course.
Of course.
So, Pat, do you want to say anything before the interview?
Not at all. I think I said enough already.
Okay, well then, without further ado, here's the interview with Taunia Derenberger. Well, Taunia, thank you so much for coming on. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. We've been talking about having you on for quite a while. I know that people are going to be really, really excited to hear from you, especially because I don't know if you had heard that the deep dive that I just did over on the Infinite Rabbit Hole podcast, the Indrid Cold deep dive. But it's been really, really topical lately. So I'm excited that you're coming on. I think you're coming on with some great timing. But for the people that don't know who you are, which would be surprising if they listen to this show and don't know, why don't you go ahead and give a little background about who you are and why you're weird?
Well, I could give you lots of reasons why I'm weird, but well, my dad was the first person in West Virginia who met Indrid Cold. And I grew up with the story, and I grew up several times over the years, including my adult years, meeting the man. And it's been a wild ride.
Yeah, I bet it has. So what was your first experience? The first time you had ever heard? Well, because your dad, he still didn't have a lot of details the first night he had met Indrid. But were you there when he came home and was shell shocked with his experience?
Yes, I was. My brother and I were in the living room watching TV when Dad came in, and when Dad came in, he never failed to grab me and hug me and play games with me before he even went in the kitchen to say hi to my mom. And that night he came in and he had this really funny look on his face, and he was very pale. And he walked right into the kitchen to my mom and sat down at the table and started telling my mom's story. Well, she really didn't know what to think except that he would scare us.
Mm-hmm.
So she sent us upstairs, and of course, as I put in my book, I was always a curious type. There was no putting Taunia in a corner except when she was hiding. So I stuck back down the stairs and was around the corner while my dad was telling my mom the story about meeting this. He really didn't call him a spaceman. He called him, what did he call him? He called him an otherworldly character.
Okay.
And he really didn't call the spaceship a spaceship. It was a craft of some type.
Okay.
As I heard him explaining it to my mom.
And what did you think when you were listening to this from afar? Were you excited? Were you scared?
Well, of course, I was a little girl, so I thought it was really cool.
Yeah. How old were you at the time?
I was almost 4 years old.
Wow. So really, really young.
Yeah, a lot of people say, well, how do you remember something like that from when you were 4? Well, an experience like that, you never forget.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know. I think you're right about that. That's not like it's just, a regular day in the Derenberger household. So,
Yeah, no, it definitely was not.
okay.
And the next day when he went on TV, oh my gosh, he came home and there were hundreds of people. I swear, hundreds of people in our yard. Because, of course, the newscaster gave our address. So everybody had to come and see if they could see the spaceman.
Oh, man. I bet. So pretty much right away, you guys had this barrage of people, strangers, coming in and out of the home. I probably a lot, it sounds like.
Yes, all the time. I mean, we could move and not give have our address not known and our phone number not known, and people would still find us somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet that was, well, for you, I mean, being so young, you really haven't known any different from, I guess, from the spectacle of it all is probably the best way I could put it. Because you've always grown up and this has just been your life and your truth and, everything. And I think that baffles people sometimes. And I think that's why people are interested in hearing your side of things as opposed to, your dad had a whole life before this happened to him.
Right.
And you really didn't. So we'll start there. So when was the first time? Well, okay, I'm going to slow down a little bit. I just want to mention, Taunia, you have a book about your experiences with it. Do you want to go ahead and talk about that just a little bit? Because I want people to buy the book, so I don't want you to tell everything.
Yeah, it's called Beyond Lanyos, Our 50 Years with Entered Cold. And the best way I can tell people to buy it is through me. So just look me up on Facebook or look up the Beyond Lanyos Facebook page and give me a holler.
Okay. And I'll go ahead and put the link down in the description for everybody. So you guys can, obviously you'll see it down there, how to get a hold of Taunia and how to go about purchasing the book. And I've read it. I mean, obviously I love this. I love Indrid. I love the story. It's one of my favorites. Everybody knows that. So of course I endorse it highly. Okay. So back to the story here. When was the first time you met Indrid? Do you remember?
I don't remember exactly. It was not too long after that. He and Carl Ardo and Diomo's son came to the farmhouse to talk to Dad. And of course, I was just introduced to him as Indrid or Mr. Cold. And I didn't think anything of it. I mean, he looked just like a regular man. And he didn't talk to me in telepathy because they were afraid it would confuse me and scare me since I was so little. So he just talked to me in a regular, deep voice. And he was always nice and friendly to me. And he would play games with me. And, it's like a regular person, like one of Dad's regular friends. I never thought two things of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it doesn't help that, he just looks normal. It's not like he's got big, tentacles coming out of him or, the weird gray description that a lot of people say for, usual, alien life. You think of the grays. So, I mean, it probably was pretty anticlimactic.
Yeah, it was. It was just another day in the Derenberger household.
At that point in time, I'm sure. Okay. All right. And then from that point on, you guys kind of started having more like family get-togethers. Is that right?
Yeah. there were several times when he would bring his sons down with him. And of course, like kids, we would go play, and I introduced them to new things, and they told me a little bit about themselves. And it was just, another day in the life, like I said.
Sure. Did anything ever seem weird? Because I'm sure as kids, you guys just kind of talked about, what life was like for you guys, for us, here on Earth, and what life was like for them on Lanulos. Was there anything that ever jumped out at you that seemed extra weird, or maybe something you were jealous of, or anything like that?
Well, I wasn't really jealous of anything, except the only thing that really weird happened was when I brought out my brother's guns, because they were a peaceful planet.
Mm-hmm.
And it really scared the kids. And when the boys do come and see me, we still laugh about it, and I still am very apologetic for it.
Sure.
55 years later. But that was the only, I mean, they enjoyed hot dogs, which they didn't have on Lanulos, and
Oh,
we took boxes and we slid down the stairs. And of course, after getting in trouble for that, we took the boxes outside and slid down the muddy hill and had a good time.
so with all of your moving around that you did at a young age, were you ever concerned that you would move and that you would never see these people again?
No, because they were friends of Dad's, so I knew they would always be able to get in touch with us,
Mm-hmm.
and I would see them again.
Okay. Okay. So, I mean, we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more, about how, you guys had all these people just in droves coming on your property. Would Indrid come around when there was people there?
Oh yeah, and he'd walk around the crowds, and they would look at him a little weird because he looked awfully tanned.
Yeah.
Now that I think back on it, now that I'm an adult, he kind of reminded me of a George Hamilton type.
Okay.
Always,
Okay.
always tanned and slicked back hair. And so, I mean, they would look at him a little weird because we didn't have tanning beds back then.
Right.
So they would, a couple times Dad introduced him as his friend from Florida.
Oh, that's smart.
Yeah, that kind of explained his tan.
Wow. That's really interesting. I guess I never thought about that. Did anybody, maybe you guys had other friends of the family, or anybody else, did anybody ever suspect that this person coming around might have been injured? Was there ever a close call, or?
No, not really. I
Wow.
mean, most family members really didn't come around very much.
Sure.
We kind of kept to ourselves. So there wasn't really any type of a close call. And so a lot of family members never even really believed Dad.
Right.
But Dad always told them it was their fault because they wouldn't come around.
Well,
Or they
that's
would,
true.
yeah, or they weren't around at a certain time. And Andrew didn't like to be around a lot of strange people.
Right. Okay.
So if there were a lot of strange people around, he wouldn't come around.
Okay. So it's not like you guys would have a like a get together, like a barbecue or something, and Indrid would be like, "Well, I'll come,"
No.
Right. I understand that. That makes sense.
He didn't know anything.
Yeah. Well, and that, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Considering I know in your dad's book they would have different meeting places. I know at the one point, when your dad went onto the ship itself, they had met at like an abandoned or an in construction highway, in order to get there.
Right.
So that, like I said, that makes a lot of sense that he didn't want to deal with other people. Why do you think he chose your father? Have you ever asked him?
Yeah, I did. And he said because Dad was just a regular guy and he really didn't trust government officials. And well, of course, sometimes I can't blame him.
Right.
But Dad was just a regular guy and a regular family man. So he figured, actually, he was going to try and stop the car in front of Dad, but the car zoomed so fast he decided not to.
Oh.
It was raining and Dad was always a very careful driver.
Sure.
So, but he chose Dad and found out Dad was a regular family man and he liked that aspect.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's the big question. I mean, a lot of people ask, well, why didn't he reach out to somebody else, a person of power? Why would he just pick some random guy driving home from work one night? Do you want to give any insight into that a little bit more?
Well, yeah, because he was afraid of people of power. He was afraid of what the government would do.
Hmm.
He didn't trust them. He was just very wary of government officials, but he wanted dad to spread the word as a regular guy.
Right. And see how that went. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And like you mentioned, they're very peaceful people. They don't really have those types of conflicts like we do here. And so that makes a big world of difference. And then when you look at our governments and, I mean, gosh, just look at what's going on in, right now in the Ukraine. I can't
right.
imagine any alien life form would go, oh, they blow each other up. Let's go talk to them. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
so,
exactly. And it's like he told me, nowadays he sees the way we treat illegal immigrants and he sees
right.
the way prisoners at Guantanamo Bay are treated. And he's just very wary. In fact, he won't even come to see me if there's a lot of people around in my house.
Yeah.
And my house is usually pretty busy.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So and that, again, that makes a lot of sense as to why he wouldn't. Any reason that you think that he, just even with regular people wouldn't present himself in front of just normal individuals? I mean, does he stay away because he just has no reason to?
Yeah, he's just doesn't trust a whole lot of people.
Okay.
And since he's known me since I was a young girl,
Sure.
he
Sure.
has the faith in the world that I won't, turn him in.
Right. And you shouldn't. I mean,
He knows I wouldn't.
you got something very, very, very special there. And so, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine wanting to risk something like that. How do you see Indra? Do you see him as a father figure or maybe a relative of some sort?
Well, now that dad's gone, he is kind of a father figure. He always told me from when I was a young age that he would always be there to protect me in some way and to watch over me. And he just adored my father. I mean, he was really broken up when my father passed away.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. I bet so. Did he come around a lot when he did, or did he kind of keep his distance for a while?
When dad died,
Yeah.
no, he came away regularly. He came around regularly then for a while because
Okay.
I was a mom with three little girls, and he used to come, and the girls don't remember it, but he used to play with my daughters and kind of like a
Oh.
other type.
Okay. I was just curious how maybe if they had a different grieving process than we did. Some people, well, and just as humans, some people kind of, hole up within themselves, and some people decide not to do that. Instead, take advantage, not take advantage, but they take advantage of then spending time with loved ones a lot more and things like that. So,
Well,
and it's
he was trying to make sure that I got through it okay
okay. I think
because he knew how close my father and I always were, even if we weren't within, a few distances from each other. Because by then I was living in Cleveland and dad was back down here in West Virginia. So
yeah.
it was, and I was a teenager. So it was very difficult for me.
Yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
dad sent letters back and forth all the time. And I mean, my teenage years, I didn't see Indrid very much
Well, I
because I was
mean,
living with mom and
yeah, I mean, you probably also weren't very, I mean, I'm sure you had an interest, but you know how teenage girls are. You know?
I'm a very busy teenage girl.
Yeah, I mean, we've got other things happening at the time, boys specifically, but
Yeah.
so your mom, that's another thing people talk about because it was actually your mother and her claims, which got me that really made me really want to look into this because I mean, she maintained until, as far as I know, her deathbed. She said, "Yes, I divorced this man, but it was never because this wasn't happening. It was happening. I've met Indrid. It's because I can't deal with the publicity." Do you want to kind of
Right.
go into that a little bit more?
Well, she could not only deal with the publicity, but they were having other marital problems at the time.
Sure.
And dad was gone for long stretches of time. So, and a lot of times he didn't remember where he had been, or he wouldn't tell her where he had been.
Okay.
So she just couldn't deal with the whole situation.
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine that is very hard. Okay. And then she just moved. I mean, when they got divorced, that's when you guys went to Cleveland. Is that right?
Well, we went to Cleveland just before the divorce, and then dad moved up there.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's not bad. All right. That makes sense.
We figured it wouldn't follow us up there, but much to her surprise, it did. When I was a kid, she took me to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor brought it up because of the last name.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. Well, he had been on radio all over the place. I mean, he had been on radio in Cleveland, dad had. So it was just a matter of time before somebody brought it up with the last name. Of course, her last name had changed, but mine had not.
Wow. I had no idea it was actually getting that much reach. I mean, you're talking, gosh, at that point, it's what, the 70s, early 70s. And, and so that's a big.
I have copies of news articles where my dad had, where it was in Stars and Stripes even back then.
Wow, that's really cool. So yeah, it was really making its way.
Yeah, we had a TV crew from Germany contact my father, and it was all over the place back then.
Wow, that's wild. So I know you guys also had, you were telling me some stories about Keel and Gray Barker.
Yeah.
What was it like being around those guys? What were they like?
They were very fascinating. They both had some wonderful stories. And John Keel was very inquisitive also. The one night, my best story is the one night when we were all standing outside and he saw lights in the distance. And he wanted to follow the lights, and dad told him not to go that way. And I told him to be careful, and he came back a muddy mess. And we asked him what happened. He said, well, first I encountered an electric fence, and I don't know how he got over the electric fence. And then he got over the electric fence into a paddock and had an encounter with a bull.
Oh my gosh.
So he managed to get out of that, but he came back mud head to toe. And he said, well, I guess there's no roads up there.
Did he ever catch his lights?
I don't think so.
Poor guy. Yeah, he's they're definitely, well, and I mean you kind of get this even now with some of the modern researchers in the field. We're interesting. We'll do whatever we have to do, to search things out. How did do you remember your dad meeting like Keel? Because Keel, started kind of in that West Virginian area, but obviously, as we know, your dad's story predates Mothman just a little bit.
Right. Well, I was investigating my dad's story when Mothman happened.
Oh, he was. So your dad's story was first on his docket.
Right. That's why dad's story was in the Mothman prophecies, because he was investigating dad's story when Mothman happened.
Okay. Well, we'll switch a little bit. We'll talk about Mothman prophecies, and we'll talk about, Mothman in general. So, first and foremost, we were just talking about it. God, that movie was just terrible, huh?
Yeah, it was. Well, John Keel warned me. Okay. He said there's a lot of poetic license with this movie, and regardless of what he said. So,
I mean, did you guys get anything at all from the movie?
No.
Wow.
I got a couple tickets to the movie.
Oh, wow. What a great deal you got. Oh my goodness. Wow. They're like, well, we're going to butcher your story, but also we're going to let you sit through it for free.
I know. Yeah, I know. The tickets actually came directly from John Keel. So.
Oh, I see. Okay. I guess at least he tried.
He felt really bad that they tore Dad apart in the movie. And
yeah.
I mean, everybody thinks that Gordon Smallwood was Dad, and that wasn't the case at all.
Right.
If you pay attention to the movie, the part of Alexander Leek was my dad, because it tells how it, how he went, just forget it, and it ruined his family. And
things like that.
If you follow that into the story, you'll see more of my father in it.
That's true.
I know. Way.
So did you guys get a lot of, I'm assuming people, I mean, for the most part, these strangers that you were encountering, did they believe your dad's story?
Most of them seem to.
Okay.
I mean, why would Dad make up something like that, first of all? And
right.
Dad was not a high school graduate, so he wouldn't have been able to come up with something that creative.
Okay. It's your dad. You can say it.
Yeah, I love my father, but still to this day, but Dad was not, a statesman, or he definitely was not a writer. Looking at his original manuscript that I have a copy of, it's like you can definitely tell Dad was not much of a writer.
Well, and that's what even the finished copy, I tell people, I mean, Visitors from Lanulus is a very easy read. I mean, it's very simple. And,
right.
So, I mean, you can, and I'm sure he had an editor that went through it. And, so.
Derenberger went through it and edited it for him.
Oh, really? See, I didn't know that. That's very neat. So
yeah, Gray was going to originally publish it, but then he decided, for my dad, but then he decided not to.
Okay.
He had to go in search of another publisher. So.
Okay.
But Derenberger edited it for him, and I have the letter from Gray to Dad.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That is really cool. So did I mean, was he, I mean, I was he into sci-fi at all? I mean, what was he into? What was he like? What kind of person was he?
Dad didn't have time for sci-fi.
Okay.
Dad was a salesman, and he was very long, very late hours. He was basically into church, into things in the church, and into his family.
Okay.
He didn't have a whole lot of outside interests. He didn't have time for them.
So he didn't watch much TV, read, things like that.
No, we watched comedies together and things like that, but I don't think I ever remember Dad even picking up a book to read it. He was, like I said, he was too busy working 7 days a week, and when he had free time, he was clowning around with my brother and I, and spending time with my mom.
Okay. So going back, we started talking about it, and then I got curious, but going back to the Mothman stuff, I think people do want to hear what you think about the Mothman stuff. Now, again, a lot of people think that these two events are related, but I mean, I think that you can attest that they're not. Do you believe that they're not related?
No, I don't believe that they're related at all.
Okay. And I mean, you still grew up in the area where this was, you had this crazy life going on, right? And then also, Mothman sightings were appearing everywhere. I mean, what did you think about those at that time period?
I really didn't pay any much attention to that during that time period.
Okay.
I was too busy being a kid and
right
being around the Indrid Cold stuff that I really didn't remember even hearing about the Mothman stuff.
Okay. That's a good, I mean, has Indrid ever addressed the Moth? Have you ever talked to him about the Mothman?
The only thing Indrid ever told me is that he was never in Point Pleasant.
Okay.
So,
okay. No, that's a strong point.
He said he was never in Point Pleasant. He had nothing to do with Mothman. And we really never talked much about Mothman except for that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if he doesn't know anything about it, I suppose there's not much to say about it. Has Indrid watched the Mothman prophecies? I'm assuming he hasn't.
Oh yeah, he knows all about Mothman.
Right.
and that side of the story. I don't know that he's ever seen the movie. I've never really asked him.
Well, I didn't know if you guys had like a watch night together, or I don't know.
We watched night together for Hellier.
Oh, really? The Injured watched Hellier.
Oh yeah.
Wow. What did he think about it?
Well, he thought it was very well done, but he did correct a few things, which will be in my new book coming out probably in November.
Now, see, that makes me very, very excited. I had a weird incident. I want to tell you off record. I'll tell you when we're done recording, but I had a weird incident while I was watching Hellier. I'll tell you about it later. Everybody's going to be like, why are you leaving me on this cliffhanger? But it's, yeah. But wow, I had no idea. That's well, okay. So he does watch. I mean, he'll watch things, right? I mean, he'll watch TV and movies and things like that.
Right, because I had watched it and I had several questions for him. So
sure,
I did, well, let's sit down here and watch it. It was like 2:00 in the morning and the house was quiet. There was nobody up. The house was pitch black inside. So
wow.
My TV, which goes all night anyway.
Sure. Yeah, same. I sleep with the TV on. I get it.
I can't sleep without some noise.
Yeah, that's how I am. Yeah, I get it. Is there anything that you want to address about? I know you mentioned some of this will be in your upcoming book because you are working on a new one. Do you want to address anything on Hellier? Do you want to put that out there publicly now, or you just want to have people wait and see? Or
no, they'll just have to wait and see until the book comes out.
See, you just like me teasing everybody with the good stuff.
Yeah, although there is a page for the book. It's called A Man Named Cold.
Yeah.
And I put teasers on it. So
okay. All right. Yeah. And that is on that's on the page. You can read it. I've read through it. Very interesting stuff. So, the Hellier crew came and they interviewed you. What was that like?
Oh, it was very interesting. It wasn't one of my first interviews, but I hadn't done very many interviews on camera like that before.
Right.
And I mean, I'd done one with WJW TV8 in Cleveland when I was living up there for a short period of time back in 2016. But other than that, I hadn't done a whole lot of interviews. So it was very interesting. I was very nervous. But they were a great bunch of guys, and they took me out to dinner the day before, and then that night after they left, they came back with all kinds of snacks and candy and stuff. And
oh, okay,
yeah, very nice group of young people.
Good. Now, when they contacted you, I think they did it through. Did they get a hold of you through Facebook? Is that how it was?
Yeah, Greg got a hold of me through Facebook and sent me his number, and I called him and we talked for a little while, and they made it, we made a date for them to come to Parkersburg, and I was still in the nursing home at that time. So we filmed it there.
Was everybody there at the nursing home shocked? I'm assuming people are in your general life know that you have this experience. Were they aware at the nursing home that what they were coming for and all that?
Yeah, but nobody really paid much attention to it.
Wow. Okay.
I love it. Now I'm a homeowner and I'm in my own home. And
yeah, and that just happened. I mean, gosh, back in September, right?
Yeah.
I think I have to come. I'm going to come visit. It's going to happen very soon. I keep being right next to you and then not keep being too busy, but that needs to quit.
Coincidentally, I'm actually right down the street from where Dad saw Injured Cold for the first time.
Yeah, you were saying that. It's right there. And I mean, we went, to the area, and it's very populated now, but how much has that area changed since then?
Oh, it has changed dramatically. I mean, where my house is, there was nothing but trees and woods. And, a few houses here and there, but I mean, this house, can't say where my house was. This house is an older house. It has been remodeled. haven't researched really yet to see how old this house is. All I know is what they told me when I bought it.
Right.
But
yeah.
I want to do more research on my house because I think it's haunted.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. I have had some people see a young boy and a young girl in the house, and we have heard noises in the house and had weird things happen, like the front door opens unexpectedly, and so it's
Wow.
interesting.
That is very interesting. Well, I need to bump that up then on my priority list. I'll come investigate your house.
Yeah, see if it really is haunted.
We'll break out the spirit box.
I haven't seen anything recently, but like I said, I've got a few people that rent a couple rooms for me upstairs, and
Yeah.
they're young people, so they're in and out all hours of the night.
Yeah. And you guys just have random things going on. Wow. Well, that's good that there doesn't seem to be anything nefarious going on.
No,
Just
just a couple of playful kids, and like I said, every once in a while the front door will open by itself.
wow. That's very interesting. Are you concerned now? I mean, I'm assuming, you had been in a nursing home for quite a while. And of course, you've gone on, beyond this. You've had your own life. You have kids, grandkids, things like that. Are
Yeah.
you, you also, you're a big supporter of MS in your community?
Yes. In fact, I have an interview in the morning or tomorrow afternoon with Senator Capito, and one next week with Joe Manchin.
Wow.
For multiple sclerosis research program through the Department of Defense.
Wow. That's great. No, you've definitely made a lot of stuff happen. You're one of those go-getter type of people, which is wonderful.
Well, when I did a cause, like, of course, I have MS.
Mm-hmm.
I was diagnosed in 2002. So it's a cause near and dear to me because of that. But when I believe in any cause, I mean, like before I was diagnosed with MS, I was part of a group called ACEs, Association for Children for Enforcement and Support,
Mm-hmm.
and helped find deadbeat dads. And went to Washington, D.C. on behalf of ACEs.
Wow.
Because I was having trouble collecting child support from my first husband. And so I believed it was, we've got a lot of children living in poverty because their parents, whether they be moms or dads, aren't coming up child support. So,
yeah.
I ran ACE's locator too, and for a while, which taught me a lot of things. And then I had a support group where I taught other parents how to do it. And so, yeah, it's like I can find anybody anytime I want to.
Don't tell me that. This can get dangerous.
Yeah, I could.
Hold on, I got a list. No, I'll send it over. That's funny. Yeah, I mean, well, and like, we were talking about like the pet store thing, previously, because Pat was talking about PetSmart, and we're just talking about the different things you've done, for the PetSmart and, utilizing that.
Oh, yeah, I was an obedience instructor for 2.5 years for PetSmart, Northeast Ohio. Started an obedience program in 2 of their stores up there. And I went on to teach myself how to train service dogs.
Wow.
I had a 250-pound St. Bernard service dog.
Okay.
And I even taught him how to go into the refrigerator and get me something to drink.
Wow.
You would show him a pop bottle, and Colby would go in and tug on the tug outside the refrigerator and bring me that exact same bottle.
Wow. And you just got a new puppy. Are you going to utilize that obedience training?
Oh, yes. That's what I'm great for. Yeah, he's a boxer red-nosed pit bull mix, and he's 7 weeks old, and he's a lot of fun.
Gosh, he's so cute. I'm so jealous. I don't need any more animals, but I always want them.
Yeah, me too.
It's like baby fever, but pet fever, I guess.
I know. I was actually looking for another St. Bernard one. This one kind of dropped on my lap, but I think he's gonna be a big bruiser. So,
well, and that's what people say. They don't, your perfect pets find you, and that's just how it is sometimes.
right. I was always Well, my ex-husband and I rescued St. Bernards. And
Wow. Okay.
at the time we had 13 of them in a 2-bedroom bungalow.
Oh my gosh.
Well, 7 of them were puppies, but we would rescue them and I would train them, give them their basic obedience training, and then we would rehome them.
No, I think that's a great thing. St. Bernards, how did you breathe?
Well, it wasn't easy, but I mean, I loved it. I'd have 2 or 3 of them climbing up in bed with me at once.
Yeah. Yeah, I
My ex
bet.
would bring 2 of them to the hospital, and I'd have both of them up in the hospital bed with me.
Oh my gosh.
Usually
Oh.
just shake their heads and walk back out the door.
My grandmother had she had a Saint Bernard Great Dane mix. Let me
Oh,
tell you,
boy.
that was a beast of a dog. Yeah, she was great. No, she was great. I mean, they're gentle giants. They really are.
They are.
But
I started getting very conscientious of the breed and very particular
yeah,
because people get a Saint Bernard because they would see the movie Beethoven
yeah,
and say, "Oh, how cute!" And then once they get bigger, oh, he's getting too big.
yeah. Well,
So
that's
then
what they do.
yeah. So then I would, we'd get a phone call that somebody at Saint Bernard that was too protective or he was too this. Like when we got Colby, who was my last Saint Bernard service dog, we were told he didn't get along with kids. Well, first thing he did when we got him was he jumped in the back seat with my youngest son, who was like, when was like 8 or 10 at the time, and start licking his face.
Oh, okay.
It's like, this is a dog that doesn't like kids.
Right. Well, and you know what? They also they're the type of dogs that need a job. They do really well with having some type of job.
They do. They
You
do,
know.
and they're very intelligent, very easy to train.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, they are protective, they're a very protective breed. And, that's why, they typically do. I mean, when you picture a Saint Bernard, you picture one working because again, that's what
Yes.
they're just made for that. A lab, a yellow lab or, a chocolate lab. I mean, they'll just sit at home with you, but no, Saint Bernards, I have many Australian shepherds and they need jobs. They definitely, my one, he's always thinking about something. You can see it on his face. It's kind of scary. I think he's like self-aware that he's a dog.
Yeah,
And you
some of
can just he's just like that. And he will bully you into doing things. He'll nip at you, he'll bite you and tell you to do stuff. And it's like, because that's what they do, but he doesn't have any sheep to herd. So
them.
he'll do it to his humans. Now, the other one that we have, he's also a mini Aussie, but he would rather lay in bed all day. So it's like, oh, okay, well, this is more my
Yeah,
dog.
yeah,
So it just depends. But anyway, getting way off topic. So I mean, you've gone on to do things, for you and things like that. Is there any oh, we were talking about Hellier. Let me get back to that real quick.
right,
So most people who know who you are nowadays know you because they saw you on Hellier. Um,
right.
that really kind of blew up the story for a lot more people because this story, your dad's story, I keep calling it a story like it didn't happen, but I have no doubts in my mind. This
Yeah,
experience, rather, we'll say that instead. Um, you know, it kind of comes and goes. It kind of comes into the spotlight and then leaves for a while. And it blows my mind personally because I think it's probably one of the best pieces of evidence for life outside of Earth. But that's neither here nor there. So the
yeah.
Hellier crew come and they film with you. And at that point in time, you had gotten an update about Indrid.
Hang on a minute. Somehow I got my microphone.
That's
Are you
okay. I'm still
okay?
here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Good. Okay, I can hear you. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll start over. I was just basically talking about how on Hellier, when you had sat down and done the interview with those people, it had been reported that Indrid had passed.
Yeah. I received a visit one night when I was in the nursing home from the 2 boys who had told me that Indrid's ship had gone off course and crashed into a humanoid ship, and they believed that he was dead. And I don't know if they later on if they knew something different and they just didn't tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the case at the time of the filming of Hellier.
Okay.
But what happened next is actually in my book.
Okay. Yeah.
I have.
Oh, I think you muted yourself. There we go. I think you're back now.
It's a story of what happened.
Okay, there we go. I had you muted for a moment. I don't know what happened there. So
I forgot to fix my phone calls when I got a phone.
It's okay. That's all right. But you were saying that what happened next is in the book?
Yeah. Let me just say, Indrid's not dead, but how they let me know that was a very at first frightening experience, I have to say.
Okay.
But it got better quickly.
Okay. Okay. And I mean, how is Indrid doing now? I mean, we had kind of talked, and again, I'm only going to share whatever it is you want to share. So I'll let you do the speaking. But with the pandemic and all of that, do you see him now? Have you seen him recently?
Yeah, he comes by every now and then, even with the pandemic.
Okay.
But he doesn't really stay for very long.
Sure.
And of
Sure.
course, he keeps distance, even though he knows I've been fully vaccinated. I don't really go out anywhere.
Okay. So he doesn't, I mean, he comes, maybe you guys hang out outside or something, or maybe just distance.
Mostly it's in the house because
Okay.
it's when everybody's sleeping and I'm in bed because I am a paraplegic and
Sure.
I am in bed a lot of the time.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Okay. Okay. So but you can confirm he's alive and well.
Yes, very well.
That's good. No, I think that's wonderful news.
Yes.
Is he, so I've had a couple of questions, people, instead of trying to reach out to you, people will often ask me a lot of these questions. They're like, can you explain some of these things? And I always tell them, I'm like, yes. So I've kind of kept, a little bit of a list, going here. So we'll kind of talk about some of them. Now, your dad has been to Landulos, but have you ever been to Landulos?
No. Still to this day, women don't fly on the ships.
Okay.
I don't know why. That's just their way of thinking. They're still old fashioned in a lot of their ways of thinking about, women.
Which is very interesting. But I'm sure they find that it's interesting that we don't think that way.
Right. Yeah, they do. They're kind of puzzled about why we don't think that way. But it is what it is.
That's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but it is funny. Because we're like, well, how do you guys travel through space? And they're like, well, how do you guys let your women vote? And so
Yeah, exactly. Women go to work,
Right. Right. Yeah. So I mean
they still believe that the woman's place is in the home.
Oh my goodness gracious. Oh, that's hilarious. Well, so that's why, I mean, you mentioned you've met Indrid's sons, but he's got a daughter too. And have you met her?
Kimmy,
Yeah.
just when she was an infant.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah, when she was an infant, they brought her to the farmhouse.
Okay.
That was the one and only time that his wife was allowed to fly on the ship, was to come down and bring the baby to see us.
Wow. And I mean, what do you know what that process is like? Do they have to get special permissions to do that?
I don't know. I've
okay.
honestly never asked. I suppose he did at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, now he was head of the Intergalactic Council that they had, and he's retired now. His son is head of the Intergalactic Council. So I imagine, what does he ask himself?
Well, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah, that would be like the president having to ask himself permission to to fly somewhere.
Sure, that's true. That's a good point. So yeah, he probably. I mean, I'm sure he didn't want to make it a habit of having one woman being able to fly, or letting it be a thing.
Yeah, they did have a couple of women who were pilots at the time, but then they decided it was unsafe
Okay.
for women, for the women, and they didn't want. I guess they didn't want too much of a revolution. Women
Okay.
wanted to do that because it was quite an uproar. I guess the fact that they did have a couple of women who were flying, and so they ended that real quick.
Wow. Well, I can imagine, the politics of it was probably very interesting. So if
Yeah.
so I know that, they don't want you on the ship, but if Indra came over today and said, "Hey, would you go? Do you want to visit? Would you go and visit?"
As long as it was handicap accessible, yes.
Well, that's a good point. Do they have similar diseases like we do like that? I mean, do they have MS there?
No, they don't. They're all pretty healthy, and that's one reason why they don't come to Earth very often, especially like during the pandemic,
Yeah.
because they don't want to take the diseases back to their planet.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Well, they were very careful. At least as far as we know. I'm sure they don't share everything with us, if they make contact with one of us or your dad or,
I'm sure he still hasn't shared everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
That he knows.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, why would they? They don't have to. So
Right.
that makes sense to me.
Time I'll ask him a question. He'll say, "I'd rather not answer that." Like, okay, let's go to the next one.
All right, then we'll talk about something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny. So, okay, so how old is Endred now?
He's 95.
Wow. And is he I mean, he's only still like middle aged in his years, is that right?
Yeah, they live anywhere between 125 and 175.
Wow. So he's got a ways to go.
Yeah, he's still got a lot of oomph in his step.
Does he still look exactly? I mean, does he look like he looked when you met him the first time, or has he aged?
You can see he has aged.
Okay. Okay. So they do age, but they just do it slower over the course of a longer amount.
Right. Yes.
Okay. Wow. That's really interesting. When is do they celebrate birthdays? People want to know when his birthday is.
His birthday is in February.
Oh, so okay.
Yes, they do celebrate birthdays.
Is it the same way that we do? Do they do cake and presents, or is it different, or?
No, it's different. I've never really asked them how they celebrate.
Yeah. Okay. Do you give him a cake here?
No, he doesn't like cake. But I don't eat sweets. They have a very strict diet. They have a very strict diet on my nose.
Okay. Okay. Does he eat? I mean, you mentioned they like hot dog. Well, the kids like hot dogs. Does he eat a lot when he comes here? Is there like certain things that he wants to eat?
Well, he's never really asked me for anything to eat. He likes, fruits and vegetables, and I always have a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables in the refrigerator.
Okay. Okay. Like some people, when you travel, you go to a different state and you go, like we're Midwesterners. So like if we went out to California, we'd be like, oh, let's go get some In-N-Out burger, something like that. I didn't know if they had similar.
Yeah, no, because, and the fact that he comes here late at night, it
That's
would
true.
be hard to go to any place, to a drive-through or something.
That's true. That's a good point. Well, because I suppose he could. I mean, I think it's safe to assume. I mean, does he visit other places when he's here? I mean, maybe he did initially, but does he do that now? And he just kind of walks around among us, and nobody knows.
You know what? I've never really asked him that. I've just taken it for granted that he comes here to see me, and
Yeah.
there are a few other places he's visited from time to time.
Sure. Sure, absolutely. I know we've kind of talked about it before, because I've had people that have come to me that claim that they've had contact with Indrid And I've asked you if you knew anything about that. And you just kind of said, well, you didn't really know much about that, which I guess I wouldn't put it past you to not. I mean, this is somebody, again, that you've just grown up with.
Right. Yeah. Well, anybody could say they've had contact with Indrid just by reading up on him or reading
Right.
Dad's.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
whether I believe it or not, they'd have to actually come to me and say, this happened to me and this is what it was like. And
Right. So you're skeptical about people that say they have contact with Indrid.
I am very, like, there's this girl on Instagram who said that she had contact with Indrid before my dad did, and she was writing a book about it. And she used the name on Instagram, Taunia Cold, spelling her name the same way I do. But she wouldn't give me, any history, any information. She talked in rhymes, and it's like, oh, come on.
Oh.
There's real.
You really come across a lot of things on the internet, don't you?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, there's a lot of people using the pseudonym of Indrid Cold.
Yeah, there is.
Book, and a lot of people fall for it. And I mean, there's a couple of bands that I've found on Facebook using the name of Indrid Cold for their band, and I mean, I'm waiting for the Mothman band to come on.
No, I'm sure there is one already.
There probably is if you look. Claiming to be, the Mothman or
right. Yeah. No, you're right. I mean, we see it a lot in pretty much anything weird and unusual. You see it Bigfoot, lake monsters, aliens, ghosts. I mean, there's lots of people that tell some very interesting stories that probably never happened. So those people.
Yeah, they think they can make money on it. Well, they're gonna try.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I know, and we both know it's not like there's millions to be made off of it. So
yeah, I'm not sitting in the lack of luxury,
Right. Yeah, I understand. People don't understand.
Alive.
Yeah, definitely. So is there anybody that claims that has had contact with Indrid, or maybe even one of his people that you believe could be something to it?
Not that they've approached me with.
Okay, not yet. Now I know that you kind of had a falling out with, I'm not going to say his name, but a certain publisher, and this certain publisher had republished a book and had made some claims. And so I'll ask you about them. If you want me to remit it from the interview, I can later on. But so the story goes that you were shown a picture of Valiant Thor and you said that was Indrid. Did that happen?
Well, it did, but in my mind, it was just, I really didn't say it was Indrid. I said it could have been Indrid.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of people claim to have seen Indrid and he looks different. But,
okay.
I said, well, I guess it could be, but I doubt it because Valiant Thor was actually head of the Intergalactic Council and Indrid was not.
Okay.
So I don't know. That publisher and I were kind of getting along now because, well, when I buy my copies of my books, I have to go through him.
Right.
But we've kind of cleared up our differences on what happened.
That's good. No, I think that's great. I think that this was something that had been brought up in that Indrid deep dive that I had done, and I knew that things were kind of strange with that guy.
He's no longer publishing books, so
that's good. He shouldn't be.
Yeah, that is a good thing.
He should switch careers. But anyway, I won't get too much into that. I got my own feelings on it, but yeah, I just wanted to verify that the Valiant Thor claim. Do you think that Indrid can change the way he looks?
I think anybody can if they want to.
Well, that's true. Okay, I see what you're saying. Just maybe with a dye job and some makeup.
Yeah. Yeah, I think anybody can if they want to. I mean, I had asked Andrew about that picture, and he said that wasn't him. So, I believe him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, I suppose he could be dishonest, but have you ever known Injured to be dishonest?
No,
Okay, that's
I've
good.
never been able to catch him in a lie. And, Dad said he was the most honest person that he had ever met.
Okay. Okay. So some people were asking other questions about like cloaking. We'd kind of talked about earlier how sometimes, he meets and kind of he either blends into the public or he meets at other locations that people normally aren't or something like that. But does he have any type of cloaking technology that you know of?
Not that I know of. I mean, I've always known him to look the same
Okay.
in public.
Okay. Okay.
Of
And
course, I don't come out in public all that often anymore. Not like when I was a little girl.
yeah, well, it's a different time now that, everybody's got cameras and,
Yeah.
and they're nosy and, so it's
Yeah,
now.
back then, if you carry a camera with you, it's this great big huge thing. And
Yeah, right. And I mean, people, I would, even though it was, I think, bigger then than it is now, I think more people across the world know about him now,
right.
than they did then. And so, I mean, I could see that. Um, okay. I think that's interesting. Is he, what does he think about what people think about? I mean, does he have any comment about like the band's named after him or anything like that? Is he amused by it at all?
Oh, yeah, he's amused by it. He thinks it's a great compliment for people to do that, but in a way, it also kind of disturbs him because people are trying to make money off of his name,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
definitely.
he doesn't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, because I mean, like, I'm sure he knows that you do, you've done public speaking and things like that about the matter. He wants you to do those things?
Oh yeah, he wants me to keep Dad's story alive and keep the whole thing going.
I think that's great. So what happens when you're not around anymore? Have you guys talked about this? I mean, who carries this? Because I know we've talked about on a personal level, just kind of about, your kids, and I'm not going to say anything more about that, but, does somebody carry on the torch?
Well, I don't know. I will be 59 in 2 weeks, and of course, some of my children and I are not getting along,
Right.
and most of them are very skeptical, and most they really don't care one way or another.
Right.
So I think it'll just I'm kind of the last in line, and I know I have several friends who want to keep the story going,
Right.
so I do have somebody to pick up the torch.
Sure. Absolutely. I mean, I will as long as I can. That's yeah. I'm more than happy to do that.
Yeah. Hopefully that won't happen though for another 10 or 20 years.
Yes, I am hopeful. I mean, I'd rather, you're the closest thing that we get to your father. And so the more we remove that, I think the less interest it gets from people. You know what I mean? I think that it gets a little, they're like, oh, well, we can't ask him anymore. He's not around. And so they kind of forget, but we had sat down and, when we met finally, which was, fantastic to finally meet you in person.
Right.
I was kind of telling you just about how there's all these people that are interested in you and your life, and you kind of seem shocked by it.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I've got a lot of people that do visit my Facebook pages because of the story, but
Mhm.
if there's more of you out there, feel free to join in on the conversation. And I mean, I will answer whatever questions I can to a point. I mean, to a point that it doesn't, delve into my book sales, but
Sure. Well, exactly. I mean, you gotta, that's what we're saying. There's no money to be made. So the little money that you do have.
right. Yeah. And it's, like I said, it's not like I'm a best-selling author and I'm selling all these books, right and left.
Sure. I understand. Yep,
Yeah,
it's tough. I get
it
it.
is. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that, obviously I think people should direct, I have people that come to me that ask me, well, can you put me in touch with Tanya? And I'm like, just talk to her. That's what I did. It wasn't.
Yeah, just get on Facebook and send me a message or whatever, and I'll be more than happy to talk with you. I mean, don't get on Facebook and try and flirt with me or date me. I'm not into that. You know how it is.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you're beautiful. And then they start asking questions. And it's like, well, if you'd read my profile, stupid.
Right. I know. It's so annoying. Oh my gosh. Well, Facebook is really bad about it. I don't know. I don't get, like, personally on my Twitter and my Instagram, I don't get hit up like that like I do on Facebook. Facebook's like full of it. I don't.
Oh, I do on my Instagram.
Do you?
Yeah, I have to revive my Twitter, but yeah, I get a lot of it. I get a lot of it on my Instagram.
I don't think I'm following you on Instagram. I'm gonna have to change that. Um, but yeah, I don't get it. That's so weird. I don't. Well, maybe it just all falls into somewhere else, into my other folder, and I just don't read it. I don't know, but sometimes it's funny.
Yeah, I know.
I like to shame them, as you can tell from my Facebook.
My problem is I follow people and then they turn around and follow me, and it's like, I don't know you. You're not who you say you are. So
Yeah.
goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. But no, you're pretty easy to get into contact with, for the most part. So when is this next book going to come out?
I'm hoping in November.
Okay.
Now I'm working on getting the cash up to replace my laptop that my puppy peed on.
Oh gosh.
So as soon as I do that, hopefully here soon, I'll be back into writing. I've got to take it to the computer repair store for them to pull the stuff off with a memory card. And
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, that's true. Yeah, you didn't have it. It was all on there. Oh my gosh.
yeah, I made the mistake of leaving my laptop open one night. I was writing and I fell asleep, and the puppy was in bed with me, and he climbed up on my table and peed right on my computer.
She's like, here's a warm spot.
Yeah. Yeah, here's a nice warm spot and lots of light. And
that's the life of having a puppy. It's terrible. That's what I tell people, like, if I ever get another dog again, I'm not getting a puppy next time.
I had never had a puppy this young, but it was brought to me, and I was told that if I didn't take it, the owner was going to kill it. And
Aww.
I am such a sucker for that type of thing. I mean, I am such a sappy person that I cry at the ASPCA commercials.
Me too.
Commercials.
Just bawling. I know, and they're cut that way on purpose. Like,
I know. It's like, okay, let me get out my debit card.
I know. How much do you need?
How much do you want?
I know. I've been doing animal rescue for years, and it's just sometimes it's terrible. I've calmed down quite a bit because I'm like, well, if I can't afford to vet them and things because I've got my own animals, I can't do it. But I get it. I get it. I've come home with many animals.
Yes. Yes. We too. Like I said, we had, a lot of St. Bernards, and we had a lot of them come to us in pretty bad condition sometimes, and, just nursing them back to health. I mean, I get what a lot of these dogs are going through. And then I found out that my ex-husband, when we moved to Cleveland, left one of her St. Bernards locked in a kennel with no food.
Oh my gosh.
I never thought he'd do that to a dog. Second of all, I never thought he'd do that to St. Bernard. And I would like to go back to Cleveland where he stayed and strangle him.
Oh my gosh. Well, you have another book about your experience with your ex-husband, isn't that correct? Is it out?
No, that's on my computer too. I'm still working on it. Love, Betrayal, and Deceit.
Yeah, that's what I thought. We were talking about it, which is also, I mean, different from Aliens and things, but it's still very
well, I'm hoping it'll help other people that were in the same narcissistic abuse that I was in.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
you just
definitely.
into that kind of a trap until you do.
Yeah, I know all about it. I was married once, and that was enough. So I get it.
Yeah, I should have learned from the first time, but I thought, well, I'll try the second time. And
Oh,
you know, we were married 23 years and together 25. So
wow, that's a long time to be trapped in something like that.
yeah, that is. I mean, I had 3 girls with my first husband, 2 boys with my second, and it just, you know, luckily things didn't fall apart. Well, I
Yeah.
felt my youngest son was 13 and he ended up being put into foster care. And since I was in a nursing home and didn't have an apartment, and the judge said, oh, well, he's 16, but you're in a wheelchair and you can't stand. So we're going to, you know, give the foster father custody. Well, then the foster father turned around and adopted him. And
Wow,
yeah.
that's a lot. So is all that going to be in the book?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, yeah. At the custody hearing, the foster father said, oh, I have no immediate intention of adopting William. Well, then I found out that he had lied, that the adoption was already in the process. So,
Oh my goodness.
you know, it
Wow.
is what it is. I've heard from him William a time or two, but you know, he's 20 now and he's busy working 12 hours days and
Sure. Well, like most of us are, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Jeez, wow. Well, I mean, that's amazing. I am looking forward to reading it, to, dive more into, your own personal side of things. And,
It's
I'm
hard
interested.
once,
Yeah.
you know, but some days I'm like, well, I do take a lot of notes on my phone.
Yeah.
So once I do get a computer, it should be smooth sailing, man.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, okay. All right. Well, Taunia, I definitely don't want to keep you too long. I know people still had a whole intro that they listened to before before this interview.
That's okay.
But yeah, I will. What's that?
It's always a pleasure.
Oh, well, thank you. And I'm definitely going to be coming to visit soon.
Okay.
And I think that people are absolutely going to enjoy hearing this finally. I mean, they hear me talk about you a lot. So,
Well, I am going to be putting on a paranormal expo here in Parkersburg, probably May or June. I haven't, with all this MS Society stuff, I haven't had a chance to nail down a date or anything, but
sure.
I will let you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'd be more than happy to come and be a part of that. And we'll keep the listeners up to date on what that would look like.
Okay, great.
All right. Thank you so much, Taunia.
Oh, thank you.
So there it is, guys. There's Taunia finally on the show. That's super exciting. It's always really, really great to talk to her, honestly. So as you can tell, something was missing from the interview. Pat, do you know what that was?
No, what was it?
It was you.
Yeah.
You weren't there.
That's so sweet of you to say. Really, I didn't mind. No, because this was so important to you, and we've been working on getting this to happen for not like an insane amount of time, but this took a little bit of effort to make happen, and I was glad when it did, and I'm glad that you got the opportunity. I know Tiny doesn't talk to a whole lot of people, and the fact that you were one of them, and then it was our show would get to host it. Are all good things, and I wouldn't have known what to say. So I totally was glad to kind of be in the passenger seat for this one, and just kind of listen to you two broads go at it. But no, I thought it was good. I thought you did an excellent job. She didn't sound crazy, which is always a plus.
Good.
You know what I mean? Like she did not. I've listened to a lot of coast to coast over the years, and I come from a very eccentric family. So I'm pretty good at spotting schizophrenia when I hear it. And no, she sounded completely legit to me. The case itself is very interesting and kind of weaves in and out of a lot of different topics. But it was good to hear, and I thought you did an excellent job interviewing her.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Well, you have a very good repertoire with her, because this is not the first time you've talked to her.
No, not at all. Not at all. This is just kind of, I mean, all those questions, it wasn't really well, some of the questions were, I was also curious that people had brought to me, but for the most part, I mean, the whole story, I mean, it's not because I didn't know, it's because you guys might not have known, or you wanted to hear from her, what it was. But no, yeah, I've talked to Taunia. I've got plans to go see her soon, and so of course I've seen her once already. So we're already, I'd like to consider us pretty close. But I did have fun with like some of the other questions that I get, because people will come to me instead of like going to Taunia and asking her these weird questions, which are probably not, familiar with, or, they're not comfortable doing because they don't know each other. They'll come to me and I'll ask her whatever the fuck you guys want me to ask her. And then she'll ask Indrid, and he'll just say he doesn't want to answer that or not, like I think it's really cool. One of the things that I'll mention, and I mean, Taunia knows that I absolutely respect her as a person. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I believe in Indrid Cold. I believe in the story. And again, another contributing factor to it is that when we went and interviewed Taunia for this back in September, when we really sat down with her and talked to her then, I had asked how old Indrid was then. And she said he was 94. And if you guys were listening in this episode, then you notice, I asked how old he was, and she said he was 95, and then he just had his birthday in February. And that tracks. Like I mean, she would have to really be on top of her lore for a detail like that. She didn't know what I was going to ask her. She didn't plan, and she didn't falter at all. She didn't flounder on it. I mean, she answers it right away. There's nothing being cut out. I mean, I mentioned that to her. Anything that I record, we can cut out, but I didn't cut anything out. So there was no magic editing involved. And so I thought that was an interesting detail.
Can I tell you my favorite part of the interview?
Yeah.
Was when she said that her and Indrid Cole watched Hellier.
Yeah.
I still have not seen that show. The fact that this guy is from a different fucking planet. We have aliens on coming to Earth and watching this show. And I have not seen a single episode. And I'm actually kind of confused as to what the premise is about. Like, is it a real documentary? Is it a fake documentary? Like, I don't even know. All I know is that it's this thing that you guys keep talking about that I don't know what it is.
No.
And this guy came to Earth and was like, yo, you got Amazon Prime? You got an Amazon Prime password? Like, throw that shit on. Fucking make some popcorn. We're going to watch that shit at 2 a.m. I still haven't seen it. This guy is from a different fucking planet, came here. Fourth thing he does is watch Hellier. I still haven't watched it. I have Amazon Prime, too.
You haven't watched. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm going to tell everybody right now. And I'm not going to tell you anything about Hellier, Pat. You're just going to have to watch it blind, but you're going to have to watch it. And obviously, talk about me being behind on all the pop culture. Jesus.
I'll watch Hellier when you watch Men Who Stare at Goats. How about that?
Oh my God. Well, that's never going to happen.
Let me know when Indrid shows up and wants to watch that one. Ewan McGregor's in it. Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Well, see, that's all you got to do. If you want me to watch something, just tell Indrid to come watch it with me, and I'm there. We'll watch Men Who Stare at Goats and listen to Alkaline Trio. It'll be great. So, me and Indrid just palling around. No, I agree. Well, he watched Hellier because Tanya's in it. So, I mean, that was the whole thing.
I didn't even know that. See, I don't know.
Yeah, Taunia was in it. Everybody should watch Hellier. And but I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't necessarily agree with them. And maybe we'll talk about it. I did initially, and actually I think I did an episode on it and talked about Hellier way back when Ivy was the co-host, and I was all on board. And then fucking season 2 hit, and it just got way too woo for me. And I was like, oh, I'm not into that. But it is a really good exercise in synchronicity, and kind of showing you how synchronicity works for those of us that investigate things through synchronicity. So it, that part is very accurate. I think that they're wrong about a lot of things, and it was really validating to hear that Indrid had also felt that way. That it was good, it's good production value, it's good show, but they've got things wrong, and I'm like, wow. so
Hellier is a TV show.
Yeah. It's a documentary series. It's a docuseries.
Okay, but so it's a docuseries. So it's not it's not fake, it's not dramatized. Okay.
No.
So it's a docuseries, and it's got 2 seasons?
Yes.
And it's on Amazon Prime. Are both seasons on Amazon Prime?
Yep. Amazon Prime. It's on YouTube. Anywhere pretty much for free. But yeah, it's all out there. Amazon Prime. Watch it on Amazon Prime.
Okay, maybe I will watch this.
You'll like it. You'll really like the second season. Actually, I'm not gonna tell you why. You'll just see it. You'll really like it.
Why are you in it?
No, of course I'm not in it.
I
They're
didn't
too
know.
cool for me.
When you're like you're gonna really like the second season, I'm like, well, fucking.
No, they're too cool for me. So it's fine. It's all right. But
but they're not too cool for Taunia, and neither are you. So that's where.
None of us are too cool for anybody. We're all equal. We all suck equally, guys. No, I'm just shooting the shit. But no, anyway, back to this interview. Yes. How, yeah, he did watch. I was surprised by that, but he's never watched the Mothman Prophecies. I think that's kind of weird.
If you come here from that's such an interesting if you can't if you were sitting down with someone who came here from a different planet,
what
or
would you show them?
However they got here, what would you show them that you felt was indicative of Earth's culture?
That's a really good.
That was like, hey, I'm gonna make you watch a movie tonight, and the guy's like, you know what? Yeah, I'm from Jupiter, but I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna watch a 2-hour movie with you. What do you got? And you're like, oh Jesus, I better pull out something good. Like, you can't be busting out Showgirls. Like, well, this is kind of kitschy, but like you gotta bring your A game. Like, I don't even know what I would do. I would freeze.
Yeah, that's a good question. You know what? Okay, we're gonna go ahead and replace this week's password with a question. That question's gonna be: if you had to show an alien a movie to represent Earth, or what would you show them? What would you pull out? I mean, I don't know.
And joke answers are accepted, but they better be funny. Don't say something stupid like Flintstones. But
how about we'll read them next week.
Yeah,
that'd be
or
cool.
You know what? And you can also, if you want to, you can talk to us, because I get DM'd a lot on Instagram. I always send you the screen grabs, but that's how people always tell me what the password is.
Yeah.
Make a case, right? Do a case, and we'll read your case on the air, or dial the phone number if you want to.
Yeah.
Leave a voicemail.
773-59-WEIRD. Call us and tell us.
Yeah.
Your case for what movie you would show Indrid if he had never, or any alien that's never seen a movie, and you got the opportunity to show him. What are you showing them? What are you showing them?
I don't even think I can answer that question. I need to think about it for a week.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So yes, I agree with that. I think that we should also think about it for a week, and then we will give ours next week after we think about it. So that's you have homework this week, Pat. And everybody has homework this week. So in light of that, but yeah, anyway, Tanya's great. She is going to be doing a paranormal convention soon, and she's invited me to come speak, of course. So I'll be there. I don't know the details yet. Of course, I'll share it on the show when I know. And then she does have her book coming out, as soon as she can finish writing it, but she does have the, Beyond Lanulos book, which is basically just mostly about her, growing up with Indrid, and just various stories of, growing up with Indrid and things like that. I mean, very interesting stuff. I've had people say that, they don't believe that Indrid ever existed, but they do believe that the experience happened for her, and, could have even been a little traumatizing for her, or, what that may be. I don't believe that. I am 100%. I am all in. Indrid, I think that you are very real, and I think that we should hang out and watch a movie together. And you can listen to my show next week, and we'll tell you what your options are. So that's what I think. Pat, what do you think?
I think that's an excellent idea.
Okay. All right. Well, then I guess we're going to leave it at that. So with that being said, we'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.